Hey, hey, my feel good friend, and happy new year. Welcome to 2023 and welcome to the 150th episode of the Feel Good Social podcast. I am just so grateful to you for tuning in to today's episode, my friend. Thank you so much. I am just like a ball of energy right now. Like, I don't know about you, but this time of year is super energizing for me personally. I mean, January is my birthday month for sure. So that probably adds to the effect. But I also always feel like this time of year, the new year, the beginning of January is just such an energizing time to, well, firstly, just reflecting on the past year, 2022. What did you accomplish? What did you think that you did really well? What did you do that you enjoyed and that you loved, right? Also thinking about, what lessons did you learn? What may you want to do differently for this upcoming year? But then taking that reflection and moving into 2023 gets me so jazzed because it just feels like a time for opportunity, a time for change and growth in a new way. Like, how are we going to just jump into 2023 and make this the best year yet? I can totally tell that my Enneagram 7 is coming out. For my Enneagram nerds, we're the enthusiastic one. And yes, that's me. And this is how I feel about January. I look to it as an opportunity for new, exciting things, right? So I want to start this episode out by asking you, what are you looking forward to the most for 2023? I would truly love to hear from you, my friend. If you want to send me a message on Instagram and just introduce yourself, tell me you listened to the episode and just share, what your goals are for 2023 or what you're looking forward to the most or how you're feeling about it. I would truly love to connect with you over there. Okay. So I'm at Feel Good Social on Instagram. Send me a DM. Just let me know you came from the podcast because I really want to hear what you're looking forward to the most this new year. It's going to be so great. I'm so excited. I have a lot of moving picture things in the works for Feel Good Social, which I would totally share on a later episode. But I don't know. I'm just in that energy right now. And I would love, love, love to hear what you are feeling right now and what you're looking forward to right now as well. So send me a message on Instagram at Feel Good Social. And another thing that we are celebrating in today's episode, which is why I'm so freaking excited over here, look out, this is the 150th episode of the Feel Good Social podcast. And it is actually landing on pretty much our 3-year anniversary, right? Back in January of 2020, I released the very first episode of the Feel Good Social podcast, which I believe was titled for social media marketing trends for 2020, which is pretty funny because that's what we're talking about today. We are talking about 6 down-to-earth social media marketing trends for 2023 and how you can take action on them to implement them for your brand. This type of episode is kind of a tradition for the Feel Good Social podcast. Social media marketing trends for the new year is the episode I've been releasing first of the year every year since I started the show for 3 whole years, which is kind of crazy. And I don't know, this just always ends up being one of the best episodes of the year. So go grab a pen and paper because I definitely want you to jot down ideas as they come to you and all that jazz. Let's go ahead and dive into 6 down-to-earth feel good social marketing trends for 2023. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Real quick, have I invited you to join the Feel Good Social Club yet? Oh man, my friend, I would love for you to check out our new monthly membership for down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are ready to create content with ease, actually show up and strategically market your business online every month, and also make friends with rad, down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are just like you, who get it, who are in the posting trenches with you, and who are ever ready to give you a friendly air high five or kick in the accountability booty whenever you need it. The Feel Good Social Club is where it is at. Check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. In the club, we have a content library full of Canva templates and tutorials and resources to help you make content creation as easy as possible. We also have monthly content planning workshops where we all come together and talk about the upcoming month's strategy for our content. And we also have community forums where you can get together, ask questions of other club members, brainstorm ideas, ask for feedback. So definitely check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Our Feel Good members are seriously some of the most amazing people that I have ever met. And I would love for you to join us, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. Join today. We would love to see you in there, my friend. All right, let's dive back into today's episode. All right, my feel good friend. I'm so stoked that you are tuning in today because I'm probably going to get a little bit fired up when it comes to this topic of social media marketing trends for 2023. Because I got to tell you, this is not your typical social media marketing trends episode, right? If you follow any other marketers online, or if you've been hearing people talking about the trends for 2023 and all that different stuff, today I may be sharing a few other ideas or, maybe a few unpopular opinions of some sort about the social media marketing trends for 2023, right? So this may not be your typical episode where you're going to hear me say, video content is king. You must be creating daily reels, or you have to start working with influencers, or you have to start using Instagram as a shopping platform and blah, blah, blah. Like, these are all trends that you'll hear other marketers talking about them. And I think that they're very interesting and I fully support them in some ways to some extent for some businesses. But in today's episode, we are going to be mostly focusing on bigger picture trends that I want to encourage you to consider implementing for your brand for 2023. And we're also going to be talking about how you can make them make sense for you, your brand, your business, your ideal audience, and your content strategy. Okay. Because I gotta say, okay, this is my little soapbox moment. This is my little disclaimer when it comes to trends. I hate the word trends. I have an issue with it because I do think that it's so easy to get swept up in the idea of trends and think of them as something that you should do and that you have to do, right? It's so easy for trends to become shoulds or have tos for us, right? You hear other people online just dishing up all this advice for doing all these different things and stuff, but they are not taking into account your business, your lifestyle, your ideal customers, and your goals, right? So fully what I am going to be continuously reminding you throughout this episode is to, yes, listen to the trends. Yes, consider the trends. There is a lot of great advice out there for different ways that you can improve your marketing online and on social media. But I always want you to, whenever you are hearing advice from anyone when it comes to marketing your business, hearing the trends, considering following trends, all the different stuff, always remember to bring it back home to your brand, right? And ask yourself, is this advice meant for me? Will this trend or advice actually work for me? And then also, to what extent should I take this advice and implement it for my brand, right? Because you'll hear a lot of people saying, video content is the way to go. Only create video content, only create reels 3 times a day. Okay, I'm getting a little bit exaggerative. I'm exaggerating a little. But anyway, what I'm saying is that, video content is a great idea. It's a good idea to get comfortable with video content, and it is performing really well on most of the platforms and all that different stuff. But is that the only content that you should create? Is that something that you should create super often and like daily and multiple times a day and all that stuff? Like possibly not, right? So the most important thing that you can do as you are hearing the advice and the trends from me today, as you are hearing advice and trends from other people online, is always take agency and ask yourself, is this meant for me? Will this work for me? To what extent should I implement this advice, right? Because honestly, like, yes, video content is performing really well and will continue to do so. But I have also been hearing and seeing other types of content performing really, really well online lately, which I we'll definitely be talking about later in this episode. But like, yes, Instagram has said that they are putting like emphasis on boosting video content and reels and all the different stuff. However, Adam Mosseri, the head dude of Instagram or whatever, has also said, I've heard from a lot of people that they miss the static photo content being promoted and all the different stuff. And he said that they're considering, bringing the static posts back as well. So anyway, there's like a lot of information swirling around out there. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter. What really, really matters is what works for you, your brand, your ideal customers, and your lifestyle. And so today I'm going to be hopefully empowering you to create a content strategy for 2023 that works for you. So as we dive into these trends, just remember, you don't have to take my advice to heart. And I'm fully admitting that right now. I want you to ask yourself, what should I do with this advice and how should I implement it? Okay. That's my little soapbox when it comes to trends and whatnot. And yes, this episode will be focusing on the bigger picture trends. Okay. So I'm not necessarily going to be getting nitty gritty into the details of different features for Instagram or TikTok or blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, we'll be talking about that, but I'm more going to be encouraging you to think about these bigger picture things that will truly make a difference for your brand, business, and content. Okay. First trend for 2023. And again, this is the down to earth, feel good social style of trends for 2023, but it is bring it back home to your brand. Okay. So hear me out. In the past few years, the platforms online have been changing so much. Influencers and creators have been on the rise, and the platforms have been changing so many features and trying to make it easier for this and implementing so many different things. And trends have been becoming very important, right? Following audio trends and all the different stuff, whatever. Honestly, I think that a lot of us have lost sight of who our brands actually are and how we want to show up online and the type of information that we should be sharing with our ideal customers who land on our profiles and want to buy from us, right? So I really want to encourage you as you are thinking about your 2023 content strategy and goals and all that different stuff for your business, the very first step that I want to encourage you to do, and I think this should be done every single year, if we're honest, is to come back home to your brand and remind yourself of who your brand is, of what you stand for, of who you help and how you help people, right? Because this fully understanding, bringing it back home, reminding yourself of these things about your brand is going to be really, really helpful when it comes to creating content that makes sense for your brand, right? It's going to be helpful for you to create a strategy that makes sense for your brand, and it is going to help you stay consistent online and create consistent content and build trust with your ideal customer, right? So coming back home to truly understanding who your brand is, how you help people, and who you truly help is one of the first steps and the most important things you can do when it comes to thinking about how you want to show up online for your brand in 2023, right? So how do I suggest that you do this? Bringing things back home to your brand, right? Well, the first thing I would love for you to do is to do a brand audit of sorts, right? Or at least some journaling and reflecting on your brand, just so you can remind yourself and give yourself the clarity that you need around your brand in order to create a content strategy and then create content that makes sense and speaks to your people and will ultimately get you the best return on investment that you put into social media this year, right? So when it comes to doing a brand audit, I think I'm going to record a full another episode about this, like kind of really diving deep into auditing your brand and coming back around home to who your brand is and how you help people and all different stuff, right? But like a general overview of things that I would love for you to journal about when it comes to doing a brand audit is I like to break down your brand into three kind of categories, right? Your brand story, your brand voice, and your brand visuals, right? So when it comes to your brand's story, this is kind of your brand's foundation, right? This is what makes your brand who your brand is, right? So really start journaling about what is your brand's transformation story, right? What did it look like when you started your business? What have been some big lessons that you've learned? How has your business changed over the year and evolved into what it is today? And what is it today? What does your brand look like today? What are your brand's values? What are your brand's opinions? Who is your ideal customer? Who would you love to work with in 2023, right? What problems do you help people solve? And what desires do you help them achieve, right? These are all things that kind of create the foundation for who your brand is. And I really want you to consider, okay, who is my brand? But also, who do I want my brand to be in 2023, right? Because like I said at the beginning of the episode, this is a great time of year to reflect on who you were and who your brand was and business was in 2022 and think, okay, what was working really, really well? What do I want to carry over into this new year? And what tweaks might I want to make this year that I learned from 2022, right? So really, as you're doing this brand audit, consider these things like, who was my brand in 2022, but who do I really want my brand to be in 2023, right? And understanding your brand's foundational stories and the values and opinions and all these different things will really, really help you to create that solid foundation for your content for this year that is very strategic when it comes to who your brand is and who you're speaking to, okay? So journal about your brand's foundation and story and those different things. Journal about your brand's personality, right? Understanding your brand's personality is one of the keys to showing up online in a consistent, relatable way that is attractive to your ideal customers and will help you develop and nurture relationships with them and help them trust you and your brand and want to buy from you and your brand, right? So journal about who your brand is personality wise. And I like to call this your brand's voice, right? Because the way you speak to people is a big part of this. So a few things that you could journal about is, who are you to your ideal customer? What relationship do you have with them, right? Are you a friend? Are you a teacher? Are you a mothering figure of some sort? I don't know. Think about who your brand is for your ideal customer, because that will make it easier for you to understand your relationship and how you can show up in a way that is most helpful and nurturing to them, right? Also journal about, how do you talk to your ideal customer, right? I always like to encourage people to think about their dream ideal client or customer, right? Maybe it's someone in reality, someone who you know, or maybe you have to make them up and imagine them. Oh, well, whatever it is, it's okay. But imagine this person and imagine that you were sitting down for a cup of coffee with just them, right? At like a cafe. You're sitting in some like easy, nice, cushy chairs. There's like, you're very close to each other. There's like a little mini coffee table next to you, in between you, or something like that. And you're just having a conversation with them. How would you be speaking to them in a way that is making them feel comfortable and easygoing and like you're relating to them? What are you talking about? What types of topics are you talking about that is relatable to both of you, right? This is always like how I like to establish my brand voice for my ideal customer, and especially your brand voice when it comes to social media, because later in this episode, I'll be touching on another quote unquote trend that has to do with adding personality to your brand. But seriously, on social media especially, this is very, very important to develop a brand personality and voice that is relatable and personable and likable for your ideal customer. Okay, another thing to journal about when it comes to who your brand is what is your brand's sense of humor, right? I think that this is always important to think about, especially before you go into writing captions and creating content and possibly creating some like funny, relatable memes of some sort or something, right? What is your brand's sense of humor? What related to your ideal customer too, right? Like, what do you guys both chuckle over in a way? Journal about that, because that is so, so helpful when it comes to then sitting down to create content for your business, because you understand what that is. And then journal about things that are relatable or interesting when it comes to your brand, right? Do you have any brand quirks or do you have any things that are like super relatable? Like, I don't know, posting your favorite Starbucks drink on your Instagram story that like all of your followers respond to. Oh my gosh, I tried that already too. I love it. Like that sort of stuff, right? Like, what are these things for your brand? Quirky, memorable things, or like relatable things that your ideal customers also do. Journal about these things because they are great. Like, it's a great kind of like way to establish your brand's personality and how you show up online for your ideal customer. And then also think about your brand's visuals, right? So this is kind of typically what people think of as the branding, the brand identity, your brand's color palette, your brand's fonts, graphic elements, photo filters that you use, right? These types of things, using them consistently in your social media posts, across your website, in your email newsletter, all that different stuff, it really helps you develop brand recognition. And so it's important to understand these things, clarify these things for yourself, and show up and use them repeatedly because that's kind of how people get a sense for your style, and that's how you visually attract people to your brand, right? Another thing to think about when it comes to your brand's visuals and really honing in on them right now is consider your brand's visuals that you want to use consistently for different social media platforms and features as well. So, for example, Instagram stories, it's kind of one of those quick features that you use kind of in the moment, often for Instagram, but it's still important to have consistency when it comes to how you show up, because then people will recognize your Instagram stories as they're tapping through them, right? So think about, what Instagram story font do I want to use on a regular basis every time I hop on Instagram stories and I add text on top of it? Like, which of those fonts most represents my brand that I can use again and again, right? Also think about the story photo filters that you might want to use on Instagram. Maybe choose like 1 to 3 filters that you use again and again and again, just so that your content continually feels like visually recognizable, right? Okay, so that's how you do kind of a brand audit. Again, I could talk forever about freaking auditing your brand. So I may record a full another episode about like how we can do this more in depth, right? But for now, I would love for you to journal about who you want your brand to be in 2023, who your brand is, right? Your brand's foundation, your brand's personality, and your brand's visuals. And then use this as the core the foundation of your content strategy moving forward. Now that you have clarity on your brand, use this information as you are thinking about how you want to show up online. This is the most important thing you can do versus following trends. Use this as a filter to think, okay, should I follow this trend? Or, okay, how should I use this trend for my brand and whatnot, right? Bringing it back home to your brand is the most important thing. Okay, I knew I would talk forever about trends 1 and 2 this year because they're doozies, but they're very, very important. The second quote unquote trend that I want to share with you today is to write your own marketing rules. Okay. This is one of those messages that I'm going to be blasting around, that I'm really going to be lifting up for Feel Good Social in 2023, because it's one of those that is near and dear to my heart. And I've just been feeling called to take a stand, so-called take a stand about this thing, right? Because like I said, kind of earlier in this episode, it is very, very easy to get caught up in the shiny object trend syndrome, right? There is so much advice out there online, the good, the bad, and the ugly advice. And it's really, there's so many people saying, do this, right? There's so many clickbait posts. It's like, use this 5-second trending audio now because Instagram is boosting it. It's kind of the clickbait of Instagram, if we're honest. There's so many people like encouraging you to follow trends and do all this stuff, do this, do that, all that different stuff. But the people online who are just sharing all of this advice are not taking into account your business, your audience, your goals, and your lifestyle. Okay. So while I do want to encourage you to listen to the advice that people have out there, again, this is bringing it back home to your brand and what you need for your marketing strategy. And so Feel Good Social for 2023 is really focusing on empowering you as the owner of your business to create a plan of attack that works for you. Okay. I want to help you take agency over your marketing strategy and make those executive decisions about where you should allocate your time, energy, and money for marketing. Okay. Because here are a few truth bombs that I might throw at you right now, but you might already know these. But number one, there is no one size fits all strategy. Okay. No matter what, you'll hear lots of different people saying like, this is the way, create this many reels and grow your following. This is the way to 10K months and all that different stuff. But there's really no one size fits all strategy. Okay. Different strategies can be used for different goals, different audiences, and different types of businesses. And so it really is important that you are listening to advice, that maybe you're asking for help from other people, but you're also always taking into consideration, what are my goals? Who is my audience? And what type of business do I have? And what makes the most sense for me? Okay. Another truth bomb is that following trends may not actually be the best use of your time. Okay. So this might be one of those unpopular opinions. I don't know. But basically, I follow a lot of social media marketers online, right? I try to stay up with like what everyone is saying, what everyone is thinking, and what the platforms are doing and all that stuff, right? It's somewhat my job. But I do feel like so many social media marketers are somewhat up Instagram's butt a little bit. And they are really, really speaking to people whose priority it is to get lots of visibility and go viral and get lots of followers on Instagram, right? A lot of the social media marketers who are giving advice out there are talking to creators and influencers and people whose businesses mostly rely on social media for leads. However, there are a lot of businesses out there who have other goals when it comes to social media marketing that aren't necessarily visibility, might not be like the biggest goal for your business, right? Maybe you get leads from other places and having an active online presence is better. Maybe focusing on nurturing your community and relationships with the people who are already following you is more important for your brand and business and a better use of your time when it comes to your Instagram strategy, right? So that's what I want to tell you right now, is that following trends can be good depending on your goals, depending on the type of year, depending on the type of business you have and what makes the most sense for you. But it also may not be the best use of your time if you are spending hours and hours and hours trying to create this trendy video that doesn't really make sense for your brand, or spending hours trying to follow the trending audio that doesn't end up working for you anyway, right? Maybe instead your time is better spent just creating the posts that are more impactful for your business, that are more engaging for your audience, that will maybe they're just easier for you so that you can show up online more easily, and you realize, yeah, they may not go viral, but that's okay. They're keeping my account active so that if someone lands on my profile, then maybe they'll see me, follow me, and eventually want to buy from me, right? Versus trying to go viral, trying to get so many followers, trying to get so much reach with Instagram Reels and whatnot. So anyway, that was another truth bomb that I wanted to drop on you. And then finally, the last thing that I want to address when it comes to truth bombs for this is that there's always going to be more or better that you can do. Okay. No matter what in your business, in your life, especially on social media, you could always do more, right? Or you could always do something better. But my question to you is, do you need to do it more or do it better, right? And often the harsh reality of social media is no, you don't need to do more and you don't need to do better necessarily, because in the big impact, will your ROI be really that affected? No. Like, honestly, when it comes to your Instagram plan of attack, you're going to hear me saying this so much during this episode, my friend. I want you to decide what type of content you're posting and how often you're posting it based on your goals and your monthly strategy, your brand, and your audience. Okay. You will always hear people say, oh, yeah, if you post more reel a day, you'll get more, blah, 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 whatever. Like, no, the ROI that you get big picture from spending 30 minutes creating 5 static posts, if your goal is to just have an active account so that you can go out and network with people in real life and do your job and get those like referral people on your side. Like, maybe the big picture strategy ROI for you is better spent that way instead of trying to do things more, trying to follow trends, trying to do things better, right? So you do not need to be doing more or doing better. Sometimes it's okay to realize that you could be doing more and you could be doing better and choose not to. Okay, I feel like that was another soapbox moment, but I knew that this episode was going to go that way, so I hope you're still sticking with me. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. Okay, so those are the truth bombs that I always want you to think about when it comes to writing your own rules and doing social media marketing in a way that works for you. There's not a one-size-fits-all strategy, so it's up to you to decide what strategy you need to choose for your business right now. Following the trends may not be the best use of your time, even though everyone says that that's what you should be doing. And there's always going to be more or better that you can do, but should you? Sometimes you can choose not to, and that's okay. Okay, so writing your own rules. This is the overall encompassing trend that we're talking about right now that is I can get so fired up about. But how do you write your own marketing rules for 2023? Well, similar to doing a brand audit, as with the first trend, I want to encourage you to do a marketing audit for yourself for 2022/2023 and create a content strategy, right? I actually just added a content planner, a 2023 content strategy planner to the Feel Good Social Club for my clubbers to help them outline their content strategy, and it's super fun. But you can totally do this with just a pen and paper. But when it comes to doing a marketing audit and then creating your 2023 strategy, a few things that you can think about are, also, before I talk about the things that you can journal about and think about, I do want to say that if you feel overwhelmed when it comes to creating a marketing strategy for yourself, you do not have to do it alone, my friend. This is where you can hire a social media marketing expert to help you understand what will work the best for me based on my goals, my business, my audience, all that different jazz, right? This is something that I help my Feel Good Social Clubbers do on a monthly basis. In the Feel Good Social Club, we talk about what does your month look like and how can you show up in the best way for you based on your goals, brand, ideal customers, and lifestyle, right? But you can totally hire a social media marketer to just help you create this social media strategy for your brand. Just make sure whoever you're working with, they understand you, your brand, your ideal customers, and your goals, right? So that they're not just like create reels, when possibly you should be implementing like an Instagram story strategy instead or something like that, right? So that's what I always want you to keep in mind. Make sure that they're taking into account your business, right? Okay. So when it comes to marketing or your marketing audit, these are the things that I want you to journal about, right? What are your goals? Okay. So what are your goals when it comes to your marketing and showing up online? And I do somewhat want you to consider your full-blown marketing strategy. Okay. Because as solopreneurs, we really need to take into account the full picture strategy and think about our goals and what makes sense for us to put energy and time into for the full picture versus just social media, because often for a lot of us, it's more worth our time to put effort into our podcast instead of daily Instagram posts or something like that, right? So think about your full marketing strategy and ask yourself, what are my goals? Now, a few goals that we hear about more often, especially when it comes to social media, are visibility. So that's where you hear people saying like go viral, right? Growth. So that's when you hear people talking about getting more followers, right? And then also sales, right? Is another goal that's pretty obvious that a lot of people have when it comes to marketing, and then they talk about when it comes to social media. These are the most common things you hear people talking about and giving tips for. But there are also other goals that you should totally consider when it comes to your content strategy, such as nurturing relationships with your ideal customers, engaging with your customers, having conversations, interacting with them on social media is so freaking valuable. And social media actually makes it super, super easy for you to do that. I think that this is actually the most important goal that most of us should think about when it comes to social media and using it for our businesses, because this is the easiest way to interact with your ideal customers in a relatable, personable way, to have conversations with them, to gain insight from them, and to nurture relationships with them so you can boost brand trust and loyalty within your community, right? So nurturing relationships with your community is a super important goal for you to consider. Some other goals that you might want to consider when it comes to social media is just having an active online presence. Like that is totally okay if that is your major goal for your social media content, is maintaining an active online presence just in case someone lands on your profile and you want your brand to look active and legit, right? Like that's okay for you to have that goal if you are the type of business, especially that like doesn't get a lot of your leads from Instagram or something like that, right? Another goal you could have is to create social proof for your brand, right? Just having an active online presence and having people engaging with your brand, sharing messages that people send you, sharing testimonials and whatnot. That is very, very valuable for your business. And I think that that could totally be one of your goals, right? Just so that you're thinking about this, you may have all of these things as a goal for your brand. Like most of us have all of these as goals for a brand, but some of them are weighted differently depending on, what season you're in your business or like what type of business you have, right? So for example, if you are like a content creator, an influencer, if you're a brand that makes most of your sales from social media, or, you depend on social media for most of your leads for your business and whatnot, then maybe visibility and growth are like the most important things for your brand. But like I said, if you're one of those brands that gets most of your clients from referrals, but you want to have Instagram be active for your brand, you want to create a portfolio of types, right? Then maybe just like having an active account is your main goal, and your content strategy will look different than if visibility is your goal, right? Okay, so the next thing I want you to ask is, who is your ideal customer and audience? So what platforms are they using most often, and what are they using them for, right? That is always important to think about, because maybe your brand, your people are on Twitter and are on Instagram a lot, but maybe they're coming to you and your brand for tips for something that would make more sense for you to show up on Pinterest, right? Maybe when it comes to your brand, they're looking for your type of brands on Pinterest versus Twitter, even though they're on Twitter, right? So take that into account. What features and types of content do your ideal customers pay the most attention to? How can your brand best meet them where they're at with what they need from you? Okay. So once again, this is just trying to think about your ideal customers and how can you show up for them in the best way? What platform should you use for them? What type of content should you create for them? The next thing I want you to think about is what makes sense for you personally. Okay. And this is something that a lot of times we don't really take into account, but it is so, so important, especially for solopreneurs. If you are the content creator for your business and you're also running your entire business on the side, then it's really important for you to understand your own abilities, your own energy, your priorities, and your commitment, so that you can create a plan of attack for your brand's content that actually is doable for you, that feels easier and energizing for you versus feeling like you're just dragging your feet and pulling your teeth and all that stuff to show up on Instagram, right? So take your own energy and abilities into account when you are thinking about, what should my 2023 marketing strategy look like? Okay, now that you've kind of journaled about all these different things for your brand, I think that this is when it's time to take the full picture information into account and think about, what is the most worth it for my brand and the ROI that I want to see? What makes the most sense to focus on? Okay. So this is where you start deciding, okay, well, maybe email marketing is the most important thing for me. And so I really want to put a lot of energy into that. Maybe I want to put some of my energy into Pinterest. Maybe I want to stay active on Instagram, but because I'm putting most of my energy into Pinterest and my email marketing, then I want to spend a little bit less time on Instagram. So what does Pinterest look like for me? What does email marketing look like for me? And what does Instagram look like for me? And maybe you need to create a little bit of an easier strategy for yourself for Instagram because it is less of a priority for your business, right? So you really want to just create a strategy for yourself that takes everything into account and that's going to get you the best results possible without wasting your precious time. So, for example, here's another quick example. If social media is not your main lead generator, but you do want to have an active online presence so that people who land on your profile know you're legit and get a feeling for who your brand is and if they want to buy from you or not, then maybe posting one static post per week is enough for your brand. One static post per week that is focused on that strategic brand foundation information that we journaled about above, right? Maybe that is enough for your brand, realizing that, yeah, those posts probably aren't going to go viral. Yeah, they're probably not going to get a lot of engagement, but they're going to ensure that my account stays active and that anyone who looks me up on Instagram, that finds me on Instagram and goes to my profile is going to know the most important information about my brand when they land there, right? That will help them want to buy from me. that could be what your Instagram strategy looks like for 2023 based on your goals, especially if you are like spending more time on email marketing, on getting podcast interviews, on other things, right? Like that's a totally okay Instagram strategy for you if that's what makes sense. But, for example, if nurturing and engaging your ideal customer to build your community and brand loyalty is important for you, and Instagram is the best platform to do that, then maybe you continue to just post 1 to 3 times a week to your feed, but you put more energy into your Instagram stories because stories are more engaging and interactive. And then also maybe you put more energy into engaging with other people's accounts, right? These are just examples of strategies that you could create for yourself for a platform that isn't just like create reels, go viral, all that different stuff. Okay, that is my 2 first trends that are like the most important that I knew I would go off on when it came to today's episode. So let's go ahead and move on to the next trends, and they won't be quite as long-winded, I promise. Okay, so the next trend that I really, really want you to embrace in 2023, and yes, this is a trend that has actually been on all of the other trend lists as I was doing my research, right? So this is something that you will hear other people talk about as well. But I want you to embrace personality over perfection. And I want you to be real with your people. Okay. This is something that has been being brought up with other marketers when it comes to a quote unquote trend for 2023 is to be relatable and relaxed when it comes to your social media content as a brand. Okay. Embrace a more personable and relaxed approach. You do not need to show up as shiny and perfect. And you've been hearing me, for one, saying this for the past few years for sure, but you've probably heard other people just shouting about this as well. But now more than ever, social media is becoming a more real platform, right? People are showing up in non-shiny ways, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. People crave like the videos where people are just standing like in their closet, with the mess in the background. People are craving just being real about certain topics and the way you talk about things online and all that different stuff, right? So that is why in trend number 1, when I said bring it back to your brand, I really wanted you to think about your brand's personality, because it's really, really important to infuse your brand's personality into your content as we move forward on into forever. And what I want to say too, when it comes to this, is that big brands are doing this. This is why this trend, quote unquote, showed up on like other lists as I was doing research for this episode, is because big brands are really leaning into being more personable, relatable, real, human, putting more personality into their brands, being more relaxed about their content because they know that is what is working. That is what people are wanting right now. They want realness. They want personality. And so not only are they making big brands making their own content more personable and relatable, but they're also working more with creators and using UGC, user generated content, for their own posts as well. So they are hiring, kind of the quote unquote small beans creators and influencers who are just like in their room creating what looks like a TikTok video. And, it's not really that fancy, right? Big brands are paying people big bucks to do that, to just sit on their bed in their college dorm and create like a TikTok video because they know that that's what people want, right? So if big brands are doing it, why shouldn't you do it? Is my question to you. We really, really need to embrace our personalities, embrace our imperfections, show up in a relaxed, easygoing, real way for our people online. And that's going to do the most to like drive deeper connection with them, compel them to want to buy from you. Okay, so how can you add more personality to your brand? Memes are a great way to do this. Memes have been a trend for the past 3 years, and they're going to continue being a trend forever because memes are an awesome way for you to insert humor into your brand, insert personality into your brand. If you can get your ideal customers to chuckle over something with you, like, that's gold. Okay. So using memes to really like establish that connection and that personality in your account is a great way to do that. Memes have also been listed on most of the other social media marketing trend lists that I was looking at as I was doing research for this episode. So yes, memes have been huge for years, and they're going to continue to be huge for years to come. Okay, Instagram stories is another way that I love to just infuse more personality and relatable things into my brand, right? Because they're a relaxed way to post on social media, right? You really don't need to prep a lot for Instagram stories. You really don't need to overthink Instagram stories or anything like that. It's super easy to just snap a photo of like your messy house or your desk or you without makeup on or whatever, and throw it up on your Instagram stories, and it's gone in 24 hours. It's a very like interactive part of the platform. It's really engaging. Instagram stories are. It's an awesome way to start one-on-one conversations with people through Instagram stories. So showing up on Instagram stories more is a great way to infuse more personality into your brand, and especially start showing up as imperfect, right? Because you don't have that pressure of, oh my gosh, it's going to be on my feed forever. Like, no, it's gone in 24 hours. So whatever, slap it up on your Instagram stories, right? So my other piece of advice for this is to just don't overthink things. Like, try to stop like overthinking your content so much. Like, if you had an idea to post something, like, oh well, just post it. Even if it's not perfect, that's okay. Social media posts really are fleeting in the big grand scheme of things. And so it really doesn't matter that much. And the more you can start practicing showing up as imperfect and not overthinking things, like, the easier it gets, right? And also, don't be afraid to show up messy. I've said this before, but people really aren't looking for like the shiny brands anymore as much as they're looking for brands that they can relate to, people who are being real with them, telling the truth, talking about things that they care about, and actually truly showing up and helping them, right? So just embrace personality over perfection. The more you can infuse personality into your brand, the more you can show up in a messy way, honestly, the more people will trust you and like you and eventually want to buy from you. Okay. The next trend that I want to talk about for 2023 is talking about the hot topics. Okay. So this is one of those things that I think is more important than, creating video content or creating reels or whatever it is. Like, talking about quality hot topics for your brand is the number one way that you can get people to pay attention to your content, more than just like creating a trendy reel or whatever that looks like, right? So when I say hot topics, I do mean like the bigger issues, right? This is something that I've seen on all of the trend lists this year as well, is like talking about climate change and talking about making a difference and all the different stuff, of course. And these are hot topics, right? These are topics that people care about. And if your brand talks about climate change, diversity, inclusivity, women's rights, anything that you really care about as a brand, like, the more people will pay attention, the more people will feel like they want to get behind your brand because your brand stands for something, all that different stuff, right? So those bigger issues are definitely hot topics that you should talk about for sure. But it's not just the bigger issues that are hot topics, okay? I really want to encourage you to talk about any interesting or catchy topics pertaining to your industry as well. right? So this is where like brand opinions can come in. This is where like taboo topics can come in and all that different stuff. And the one example that I wanted to share is actually from one of my Feel Good Social Clubbers, Sheridan, who is going to be in next week's episode of the Feel Good Social podcast. Oh my God, it's such a good episode, you guys. You don't want to miss it. But she actually recently this year had like a major surgery. And so she had to kind of plan ahead for her content and think about how am I going to show up on Instagram while I want to take downtime for myself and whatnot. And she actually decided to, instead of posting reels, to instead batch create just regular static one image posts and some carousels for her brand because that felt easier for her to create than reels. And those posts actually performed way better than any of the reels that she posted at the same time, right? And it's because she was talking about hot topics for her industry with this static single image post and then this carousel post that she created. So she'll share about this more in next week's episode, but basically she talked about feminine hygiene in the woods. She's a backpacking brand, which is very cool. And she talked about pooping in the woods, which is another kind of one of those interesting, eye-catching topics that people want to like learn more about that people don't talk about very often, right? So what are these hot topics for your brand? The stuff that people will pay attention to. Ultimately, talking about these hot topics will do so much more to boost the overall performance and ROI of your posts rather than just following the latest trends and stuff, right? Because the hot topics are memorable, the hot topics are engaging, the hot topics are what captures people's attention immediately and gets them talking and sharing, right? And ultimately, hot topics nurture your ideal customers versus just like doing a dance to like a trending audio or something, right? So talking about the hot topics, quality topics is way, way better than following trends and stuff. Okay, so when it comes to figuring out what topics to talk about for your brand, a few things that you could brainstorm are unpopular opinions in your industry, right? So what like misconceptions do people have? What does most of your industry believe that you don't necessarily believe, right? Talk about those unpopular opinions because it is so great for starting conversations. It helps you stand out from your industry, from the crowd, right? It gets people talking and remembering your brand over other brands and all that different stuff. Other things you could brainstorm are taboo topics or even just kind of taboo words, right? So the topics that like maybe not everyone talks about because it's kind of like, oh, like pooping in the woods or whatever. And actually Sheridan in that post, she said specifically that she used the word shitting in the woods instead of pooping because she thought that shitting was more of a taboo word that would capture people's attention more so, right? So not saying that you need to use any cuss words or anything in your post unless you want to. Fully support that if you're that type of brand. But what are these like kind of taboo topics that people don't really talk about? What's somewhat like the stuff that people sweep under the rug or what's like the elephant in the room? Like talk about it, address it, bring it to light, that sort of stuff really gets conversation started and grabs people's attention. And then finally, some things that you could brainstorm are the mistakes people make. Okay, so what mistakes do people make when it comes to your ideal customers and how you help them when it comes to your industry? You can think about this as like a stop doing this sort of post, right? So stop blah, 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 whatever. I saw, oh my gosh, I loved this so much. I want to steal it. Another brand the other day posted something like, stop telling people you love tacos. Right? Because that's just one of those kind of things that people put on pretty much every single one of their About Me pages. It's like one of those quirky things that people put on there to be relatable, but it's like kind of everyone loves tacos. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the point of their post was like to make to make tacos something more memorable or more specific maybe for your business and your ideal audience, right? But what is something that people should stop doing when it comes to your industry, your brand? What mistakes do they make? Those are all hot topics that people love to read about when it comes to social media. Okay, so The fifth trend that I want you to consider hopping on board with for 2023 for your content is to create bite-sized, easy to consume pieces of content versus long ass kind of confusing content that like is going to take people a long time to get through, right? Because our attention spans are freaking like non-existent at this point. Pretty much we have so much content, we have so many ideas and topics and things like slapping us in the face every day, right? And especially when we're on social media, it's like, if you don't like what you're reading in the first 2 seconds, you just scroll on to the next post and scroll on to the next post and scroll on to the next post, right? And so it's really, really important for us to try to simplify our content in 2023 to try to make it as bite-sized and straightforward as possible for our people, because they just won't pay attention if we don't do that more, right? I know it like takes a lot of us longer to write long ass captions anyway, right? So actually chopping your captions down, making them shorter, making them to the point, right? Editing them, simplifying them is not only better for our ideal customers, but it's better for us as the content creators because we don't necessarily need to spend as much time typing up this long ass, beautiful caption, right? That no one ends up reading anyway, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't write long captions. And I've definitely heard from several of my Feel Good Social Clubbers who have posted longer captions more recently that people will read them. For example, Sheridan's post on feminine hygiene, it was just a simple static image post. And then she wrote a longer caption kind of telling her story about her experience with it and whatnot, right? And people did engage with it. They did read it. They did love it. And it was awesome. And so longer form content can still perform well, especially if it has to do with a hot topic like we were talking about, right? But in general, the easy to consume bite-sized content is really what you want to be focusing on, that captures people's attention, that tells them what they need to know right then, and that can keep them moving on, right? Because otherwise they probably won't pay attention to your brand as much. So things to think about and like implement when it comes to creating straightforward content for your brand in 2023. Number one, stop being coy. Okay. Basically, like, you do not need to like take people through this like long introduction into the point that you're trying to make, right? You don't even need to, for example, my client Tanya the other day, she created this amazing reel for her coaching program that she's about to start again. And she started her reel with like a 5-second slide that says announcement, and while I understand that she wants to tell people like, I have an announcement, and while a post that said announcement would have caught people's attention like 3 years ago, and they would have continued to watch and pay attention to it. Nowadays, a post that just says announcement, like for 5 seconds before it goes into my coaching program is opening up. Like, are you struggling with this? All this different stuff. People aren't going to pay attention to it, So instead of starting with like a long intro that leads into the point you're trying to make, just start with the point. Get to the point in big flashy letters, right? Like always cut out the intro. They do this, novelists do this as well. Writers do this. Usually when it comes to book editing, the editors cut out like the entire first chapter because it takes a while for the writer to get into actually writing the book. Same thing for your social media posts. Totally type up this long ass intro, totally create the reel with a 5-second slide to start that says announcement. But then we're going to look at it a little bit later. We're going to edit it down and we're going to get rid of that long intro that isn't needed. We're just going to start with the point that people care about, right? So don't be coy, get to the point, and then also share about the same topics and ideas again and again and again. Okay, this has to do with the minimal attention span thing. But for sure, as much as people aren't paying attention to information very much, they aren't retaining information very much anymore. And so in order to really drive home your brand's messaging for your people, get to the point and get to the point over and over and over. Create multiple posts, multiple bite-sized posts about this topic, your brand's topic and ideas. You can talk about them in different ways and all that different stuff for sure. But talking about the same stuff again and again is very important. Okay, so how can you create bite-sized content for your people? Well, firstly, create your post, then go back and edit it down and simplify it, okay? Get rid of, the intro that coyly leads people into what you want to actually tell them, right? Get rid of any extra words that just muddy up your sentences, right? Make your captions, make your content as simple, straightforward, to the point as possible, because that's the best chance that you have of getting people to pay attention and read through your posts, right? What I like to do is actually create my post and then break it into multiple posts if I can, right? Often when I will write a social media caption or something, I will end up with what could almost be a blog post, right? And social media posts should not be blog posts. They should be little snippets of information that could come together to create your blog post, right? So could you use the introduction of the caption that you wrote as making your point? And then, okay, so I'm laughing because this always happens with, firstly me, and then also my other coaching clients and stuff. They'll write this beautiful long caption that's talking about the topic and talking about what the topic is. And then they lead that topic into 3 tips for this topic. And then they lead it into, a call to action at the end. And it's okay, this is great, but can we break it into, 3 different posts? That's what is this? Why is this important? Those are 2 separate posts. And then a third post, tips for this topic, right? Can you break your original post into different, more bite-sized posts, right? Smaller bite-sized posts. Another thing to think about is one-liners for your brand, right? So that's the stop telling people you love tacos type of thing. What is the one-liner for this topic? What is the point that I'm trying to make in a one-liner scenario? This is what I really, really like to do when it comes to really getting to the point soon. And that is great. One-liners are great to add to attention grabbing, text heavy graphics. You know what I mean? And then also memes are a really great way to get a point across like that to people. If you can create a meme that just makes people stop and think, oh yeah, or oh my gosh, that's hilarious, or oh, I didn't think about that. It's a very easy way to grab people's attention and get a point across very quickly. Okay, so the final, probably most important trend for social media for 2023 that I want to talk about is please do not put all of your eggs into a social media basket that you don't own and can't control. Okay, so this may be one that you've heard about before, but we really, really need to continue talking about the fact that we should not fully create our businesses on social media platforms that we have no control over and that we do not own, okay? Because as platforms are hammering down more on trolls and hackers, as they're enforcing their privacy policies and community guidelines more and more accounts are getting temporarily and permanently disabled. Okay. So I actually had this happen to 2 Feel Good Social Clubbers recently. One's account was temporarily disabled for 5 days or something because they said that she went against their community guidelines on Instagram. So she couldn't access her account. It was only temporary. She did get her account back, but she had to go through a process of, saying, I didn't do this. And then they allowed her back into her account, right? Another one of my Feel Good Social Clubbers recently had both of her Facebook and Instagram accounts for her business permanently deleted. Okay. And it ended up, she basically woke up one morning and it had already happened. It had happened at 4 a.m. She got a message from Instagram saying, and Facebook saying, your accounts have been permanently deleted when she tried to log in. And she tried to, petition Instagram and Facebook to get her accounts back, saying no, I didn't go against any community guidelines or anything like that, but they did not allow her to do that. And what had ended up happening was that her IP address was actually hacked in a way, and some people were doing some shady stuff behind the scenes. Hackers were getting into her IP address, and she actually ended up having to get an entire new router for her internet, and she had to fully just start from scratch after I think she was working on her accounts for 3 years or something. Now she has to start from scratch with new usernames, not having any followers or her community or anything like that. Luckily for Lindsay, she couldn't even access her account. She couldn't even see her past captions or anything like that, which is important for her because she does repurpose her content often, right? But luckily for her, she actually has been planning most of her social media content off of the platform for years. So she has a backlog of her past posts stored on Airtable or ClickUp or one of her other organization tools that she uses, right? So that's awesome. Plus, she has established a community off of Instagram and off of Facebook. She has a website. She has an email list. She gets a lot of word of mouth referrals and whatnot, right? And so while it was so disappointing for her to lose 3 years of work and not be able to gain access to her Facebook or Instagram accounts, to just have them permanently deleted all of a sudden, it was heartbreaking, and it's so frustrating, and it's awful. But it is not the complete end of her business, because she has other revenue streams. She has other avenues for her marketing. And so she's able to, start from scratch, but not fully from scratch again, right? And I just think about this again and again because it worries me so much. These people who are building their businesses on social media platforms that they really don't have any control over. What if your Instagram was permanently deleted tomorrow? How would people communicate with you? How would they get in touch with you? How would you start building your community again and get in touch with the people who you've already been building around, right? So I'm not saying that we shouldn't just we should just forget about Instagram and social media and stuff, but it's very, very important for you to think about moving into 2023. Okay, what marketing efforts do I have control over? What marketing efforts do I own? And how can I use Instagram along with these other avenues for marketing that will really help build my brand in this holistic way, just in case the freaking internet gets hacked and all of a sudden I have to start from scratch on Instagram, right? So, few things you can think about doing in 2023 to really diversify your platforms and create different avenues of communication for your customers. It's really, I do think it's important to create a website for yourself, right? Nowadays, this can be done so easily. You can actually create a website for yourself on Canva if you wanted to. There's Wix. I personally use Squarespace, and I have more coding knowledge with Squarespace and stuff. There's so many different ways that you can create a website for yourself, and very cheaply or even freely, right? So having a website for your brand is very important. Having some place that you can send people to. Also thinking about starting an email list or really nurturing and trying to grow your email list in 2023 is important for sure. If you're anything like me, you may have been kind of annoyed with all of the emails that people were sending over the holidays and whatnot. It's a very promotional time of year. And so our inboxes were just getting bombarded with email, promotion, right? So if you're anything like me, you may somewhat be annoyed with email newsletter marketing, and you may somewhat have a bad taste in your mouth about email newsletter marketing, or you may not understand it, or you may think it's boring, or you may just not want to have to, email people on a weekly basis or anything like that. But I do think it's important to start thinking about growing your email list, or establishing an email list for yourself and really, really trying to get your Instagram followers or TikTok followers or whatever it is to either at least know that you have a website and or get on your email list so that you have a way to contact them if by chance tomorrow your Instagram account would be deleted or something like that, right? Actually, for Feel Good Social Club and Feel Good Social in 2023, I am planning on expanding our strategies that I'm offering in the Feel Good Social Club, as well as our templates that I'm offering in the Feel Good Social Club. I'm expanding it to be email newsletter templates, to be lead magnet and freebie like workbook templates and whatnot. I'm considering even creating website templates and maybe sales page templates for the Feel Good Social Club for our Canva template library. So that'll be really, really awesome because it will just make it easier to at least establish an email list for yourself so that you can start growing your following in other ways offline on a platform that you can control and own, right? And then finally, blogging and podcasting are an awesome way to really implement like content marketing in a way that you can own it. Right? Because yeah, totally. Could Apple kick me off their platform as far as the podcast? Sure. But I still have my podcast feed because it is very similar, an RSS feed, like similar to blogging, right? So I still own my podcast. I still own my episodes. Like, can distributors shut me down? Sure, but all the different platforms don't like work together necessarily. I can still be on Spotify even if Apple shut me down or something like that, right? And it's still my content and I still own it. Similar with blogging, right? And blogging can help you with SEO if you do have a website, which can then help you to be found online in a way that's not just through Instagram, right? Oh man. So anyway, all of this is to say is that I really would want to encourage you to consider at least diversifying somewhat your avenues for marketing apart from social media and especially Instagram and Facebook, because I have been seeing more and more people getting kicked off the platform lately, which is just like heartbreaking if like that's where all of your audience is, right? All right, my friend. I know that this was a long episode. I probably went off on a few tangents. I am a little rusty when it comes to recording these episodes, so hopefully I didn't stumble over my words too much or anything like that. But I really, really appreciate so much you tuning in. I am so grateful to have you in or to be in your earbuds for the 150th episode of the Feel Good Social podcast. Once again, the trends, the down-to-earth trends for social media marketing for 2023 that I talked about in today's episodes are bringing it home to your brand, starting with your brand's foundation, story, voice, personality, visuals, all that stuff, and making that the foundation of your content strategy is so important. And then writing your own rules, right? Yes, listening to the advice and the trends and all the things that people are shouting about online for seeing success when it comes to marketing and whatnot is important. Listening to them, but then remembering that you have control, you have agency. It's up to you to decide what is going to work the best for you, your business, and your ideal customers and lifestyle, okay? The next trend we talked about was personality over perfection. Just lean into your beautiful, imperfect self, my friend. Infuse personality into your content. Relax a little bit when it comes to showing up online and just show up as you and be real with your ideal people, and people will respond to that. And then talking about the hot topics, right? The attention grabbing stuff that people want to pay attention to, unpopular opinions, taboo topics, mistakes that people make. These are all things that will really help your content create awesome ROI in 2023. Creating bite-sized and easy to consume content so that people actually pay attention to it and don't just scroll on by. And then once again, diversifying your content, your marketing avenues so that you're not just fully putting all of your eggs into the Instagram basket, because I really don't want what happened to Lindsay to happen to you. Okay, if you have any questions at all about today's episode or anything like that, any comments, I would absolutely love to connect with you over on Instagram. I'm at Feel Good Social. If you want to share today's episode to your Instagram stories, I would love that as well. Make sure that you tag me. I'm at Feel Good Social. If you tag me, I will see it, I will reshare it, and I will just spread so much love and joy right back to you. All right, my friend, I will will see you next week for our amazing interview with Sheridan, where we talk about the way that she has really approached social media marketing in kind of a way that all the experts say you shouldn't do. And it's super, super awesome. And she saw great, great results from this. So definitely tune into next week's episode, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.